What's going on, everyone? DeskTopsGaming here. Welcome back to the channel. Today we have a cool build in that new B660 GTM motherboard we took a look at last week. Instead of asking you guys what case we should go with, and I have it sitting right here. The case we're going to go with is Welcome back to the channel, guys. That's right, the case we decided to go with for this build is Lian Li and Dan case combination, the A4-H20. So I kind of went back and forth on a little bit of debate on which case I wanted to use. We're a little late to the party on this one. This one launched a few months back here, but really want to check it out. Been a big fan of Lian Li cases for a while and decided really want to take a look at this one today. Kind of go over it with you guys and see if it really is getting all of the rave reviews it deserves. So we're going to dive into unboxing this guy, taking a look at the case, and then we'll start working on the build. So let's go ahead and get this guy unboxed. All right, let's go and hack into this thing, get it open. All right, and here we have it, the nice and unboxed Lian Li A4-H20 case here from Lian Li / Dan case. This was a collaboration they've done. Like I said, this was an 11-liter case in all. And what really wanted me to check this one out is all the features it has for 240 support AOs, as well as being able to mount some impressively large graphics cards, I believe up to 322 millimeters in length, due to how they kind of designed the GPU cutout, and it can also support up to a 3-slot card. So definitely gonna try to wedge that giant 3070 Ti I have from Gigabyte in here today. I originally was thinking of going with the 3060 and a small form factor build, but I figured if this case can support it, why not go for something just absolutely massive. All right, so making our way around the case here, we'll go ahead and go over some of the features. On the front here, we do have the power button here at the top. We have some I/O here at the bottom. Looks like we have a USB Type-C, Type-A, as well as a microphone headphone jack split. Lian Li typically does keep, and Dan case keeps their I/O pretty minimal, so they like kind of go for that minimal design. So, having some I/O here accessible to the front is nice, where you don't have to always go to the back of the motherboard. And I like that the case doesn't really have any branding except for the kind of Lian Li Dan sticker or badge here on the back. All right, so as you can see, we do have some thumb screws here on all 4 sides, as well as your I/O and GPU I/O output here, and then the power jack here that'll pass through to that power supply that we install inside. All right, let's go ahead and get the thumb screws out, and then we will start popping the panels off the case and showing you how you do that. All right, now that we have all 4 of those removed, we can go ahead and start taking apart the case here. We'll start with the front panel on this side, and it just uses a clasp feature to hold everything on. Has little tabs here on all 4 corners to hold each tray on. So that'll reveal the front of the case here. This is the side that your motherboard and power supply will be sitting on. We have a power supply bracket here and motherboard bracket there. We'll go ahead and pull the other side off here. And they do feel really good, pretty stiff. So they don't, I'm definitely not even worried about these popping out on their own or anything like that. Like I said, they do have the thumb screws in the back to secure them, but honestly, unless you're gonna move it or shake it around a good bit, I don't see these coming out very easily on their own. All right, we can go and remove the top panel as well. Use that same clasp design. Now on the top panel here, like I said, like we went over with the front, having the motherboard tray and the power supply shroud there, what's gonna hold your power supply. The top does have a removable radiator mount here. So this is gonna come up with the 4 screws. So you've removed these 4 screws here, so you can take this out and mount this to your radiator separately. So it makes it a lot easier to fit in the case, because Lian Li does recommend that you install the AO first in this case before installing anything else. So we'll definitely be taking a look at that. And then on the back side here, like I said, this is a sandwich design. I did go with the PCIe Gen 4 option, so we'll be able to take advantage of the full speeds of our GPU there, since we do have a 30 series card, and that's sitting right here, the ribbon cable already installed, nice and neat for us. And then if we remove the front mount of the case, this is the trick that lets them get away with, I believe it's up to 322 millimeter mounting options. There's a large cutout right here in the front of the case, hiding behind that front panel there. So this is what would allow us to not only fit a smaller card in here, but even pass through a larger, very long card straight through, allowing to support that up to triple mount slot. There's a big cutout here, which does allow us to go for that 322 millimeter option. Now, of course, you wouldn't have to use that if you were going with, say, a smaller, say like a 3060, we have a smaller 2-fan cooler. mounted card, but like I said, this also gives you an option to run up to that 322mm. We're gonna try to force that 3070 in there later on in the build. All right, and then moving around to the bottom here, we do have mounts for, it looks like a single SSD here at the bottom, because there is some damper vibration here at the bottom. And this also is removable, so we'll go ahead and take this off. And this comes off where you can access your GPU power cables and do a little bit better cable management from the bottom of the chassis, which is really nice. Just 5 little screws there, and this panel comes right off. Case is very thick, very sturdy feeling. Definitely love the look of it. Very minimal industrial. I do like that a good bit. All right, so now that we have all of the panels off, you can see only one we have to take off now is the one for the radiator mount. It's pretty open design here as far as getting around the case and being able to access everything that you need to access. So like I said, we're gonna focus on getting the build done next. And for today's parts, we'll go over the parts real quick. We have that BioStar B660 GTN that we got sent over last week. If you guys wanna go take a look at that, I'll put it in the cards up top here if you want an overview more specifically about the board. For processor, we're going with the i5. This is the i5-12600KF. Now, of course, it's not gonna really matter much for this motherboard since we won't be able to do any overclocking, even though this isn't a unlocked processor. The B660 chipset won't allow for CPU overclocking, but we'll still be able to use the full extent of the RAM with an XMP setting. And then for RAM, we're going with the tried and true G-Skill Trident Z RGB here. That 3600 megahertz is a 32 gig kit. So we'll be installing that today. And then, like I said, for our graphics card, we're putting in that Gigabyte Gaming OC 3070 Ti because it was one of the longer cards I had on hand other than my 3080, just to see how much we can really pack into this case. And then for power supply, we just have an EVGA Supernova 750GM, a small form factor power supply. So that's, this will support SFX or SFXL PSUs, so shouldn't be any problem mounting that in here today. Well, all right, guys, let's go ahead and dive into getting the CPU socket installed. I have my AO cooler already sitting to the side here. I've already gone ahead and mounted the conversion kit here because I've had this on a previous build, but didn't have the LGA 1700 bracket set up for it. So I've gone ahead and ordered that. And then we went ahead and installed that onto the processor, or excuse me, onto the motherboard off camera there, just to go and get it prepped and ready for this build. So now we just gotta get the CPU in the socket, throw some paste on it, and we can start the build. Let's dive into it.
All right, ladies and gents, let's get into some ITX stress test results for thermals. Here we tested the 12600K stock and the 3070 Ti stock at an ambient of 20C for a 30-minute stress test. You can see we got 69C CPU stock and 67C on the GPU stock with all panels on. We also tested with panels off. With the panels off, we dropped by about 4C across the board with 65C on the CPU and 63 on the GPU. So pretty solid performance for this case. Not a whole lot of blocking of thermal performance by having the panels on. So really solid performance overall.
All right, guys, that about wraps it up. Hope you enjoyed the little build-tage and the thermal testing there. Really impressed overall with this case. It was definitely a treat to build in. Definitely one of the easier mini ITX cases I've built in the past. Just overall, pretty solid. Still got a little bit of kill management to do. Definitely could do a little cleaner, especially on the GPU side here. And so we kind of just have a little mess of cables kind of tucked in above the GPU here to kind of get them away from the fans at the top. But otherwise, not too bad. I like the cutouts all around the case, making it really easy to work in. Having access to the top panel, the separate radiator mount, the cutout for the GPU, and having that bottom removable definitely makes it easier to get to those power plugs for the PCIe power for the GPU. Overall, like I said, really impressed the fact that I could fit a card of this size in here with pretty much minimal effort to get it lined up, snapped in place. This one is the PCIe Gen 4 riser, so our testing was fine with this. Of course, this is still everything running at stock. The test you just saw with the ITX stress test. Didn't do any games today. Just kind of wanted to give a kind of a worst case scenario of a 30-minute run, let everything get up to temp, and tested from there, because that's, for most games, you're not going to be taxing anything near what an ITX stress test would do to the CPU and GPU at the same time. So you can kind of take those numbers and kind of run with them as far as stock settings go. Now, I definitely want to maybe revisit this case when I do have a mini ITX board that can, maybe a Z690 mini ITX board, we can revisit this. So definitely am curious to see what else, what other kind of high-end, I can pack into this case, because like I said, overall just love to build in it, like the access to everything. It was definitely great. And might even look into maybe adding it over to the desk as a permanent feature. I could definitely see this as great for like a, anyone that has a small desk, a great living room gaming setup, definitely for sure, if you need to tuck it away somewhere, because the airflow on this is still pretty good, so long as it's in a ventilated area, of course. Like I said, my room ambient temperature is not too cold, so I felt like it was pretty indicative of what most people would experience running a setup like this. That being said, I appreciate you guys stopping by and taking a look at this build today. Of course, if you want to see more of that overview of the motherboard itself that we use in this build, just click up here. You can go check that out. If you have any more questions about the case and of course the motherboard, you definitely drop a comment down below and let me know about that, and see more close-ups of this over on Instagram at DeskTopsGaming if you want to see more close-up shots. But I appreciate you guys stopping by today. Take it easy.